Well, hello, and come on in. You're listening to Kevin Durjun here on UK Health Radio. We are your global feel-good station with over 1.2 million listeners every single week. An extremely warm welcome to Acupuncture Point. Hello. You are listening to Kevin Durjun here on UK Health Radio. We are your global feel-good station. Thank you so much for joining in and for listening to Acupuncture Point this week. Coming up on today's show, I'm going to be looking at a brand new review of the evidence base about how acupuncture can help with cancer-related pain. We're also going to be looking at my mum's recipe for saffron. We're going to look at a bit of research about how our waistline should be. And apparently there is a ratio to our waistline based on our height. And also we are going to discuss how acupuncture is currently underused in clinical practice. A very, very big bit of research was published recently in the esteemed journal, the British Medical Journal, and I'm going to be picking our way through that. And if that was not enough, we're going to go all out today. Thank you so much for being part of Acupuncture Point this week. Now, an organisation that I am rather in awe of, evidence-based acupuncture. It was created to show the current state of knowledge about acupuncture using scientific language. It's a community-run project that provides simple, trustworthy, robust, evidence-based tools that aims to empower acupuncturists and acupuncture as equal among medicines, therefore improving public health and saving lives. And this rather fantastic organisation has recently put out an evidence summary on cancer pain, and it really is rather incredible. The amount of research that is available. And basically in this latest research overview created by evidence-based acupuncture, they talk about the amount of evidence that there is for how acupuncture can help, including 2 systematic reviews, which is a really large version of it, including over 36 trials and over 2,200 patients, which found a moderate effect of acupuncture on cancer-related pain, and concluded that acupuncture is effective in relieving cancer-related pain, particularly malignancy-related and surgery-induced pain. And I'm just here giving you some of the broad overviews. Essentially, the mechanisms for acupuncture for being able to treat cancer pain are thought to be similar to those for treating other painful conditions. And all of these mechanisms have been researched extensively over 60 years. And the general way that acupuncture has been demonstrated to work is by activating a number of the body's own opioids, as well as improve the brain's sensitivity for opioids. And all of this that I'm reading out to you is backed by evidence. A number of other biochemicals involved in pain reduction have been found to be released and regulated by stimulation of acupuncture points. And acupuncture has also been demonstrated to reduce activity in the parts of the brain associated with the perception of pain. This is really interesting stuff, and this report also talks through some of the drugs which are currently mainly used for cancer pain, and also it goes in to talk about why acupuncture should be used in addition to other and pain-relieving processes. I'm just going to end with this quote from a recent Cochrane review, which provided an overview of reviews for opioids for cancer pain. They highlighted the lack of data and commented that the amount and quality of evidence around the use of opioids for treating cancer pain is disappointingly low, and that most people will experience adverse effects. So I'm talking about the pain relief that is currently given to people with cancer. The research base for that is disappointingly low. And that isn't me talking about it. That is a very high quality Cochrane report that talks about this. So if you would like to find out more about this research paper, and there are so many wonderful things on this acupuncture-based, evidence-based acupuncture site, please look them up, evidencebasedacupuncture.org. That's evidencebasedacupuncture.org.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. The station that makes you feel good.
Now, at the end of last year, I wrote, or rather I took the credit for my mum's recipes, and we wrote a wonderful cookery book, well, I think it's rather wonderful, called Delicious Mauritius, Tastes and Tales from My Mother's Kitchen. And it's a book which basically celebrates the cuisine of our beautiful island, and in it I share some old family stories and some really, really beautiful recipes, and that I hope will give you an insight into, well, basically how I grew up. It's a food that my mum would cook for us, her brood, and anyway, I really love the book. Now, if you're listening to this, you might be able to detect that I've got a slight nasal sound. That's because I've got a little bit of a cold. And so I thought it might be appropriate for me to share a recipe for saffron, which is a really, really great recipe for helping to shift colds and snuffles and whenever you're feeling a little bit out of sorts generally. So let me read you out this recipe for saffron from our cookbook, Delicious Mauritius. Saffron, pronounced saffron. You need to roll the R in the back of your throat. And I should just explain that this recipe comes in the recipe for soups. Although this obviously isn't a soup, it is marvellous at shifting colds, snuffles and the like. Apparently, it is an ancient Ayurvedic tonic. My mum would make us drink this whenever we had a sore throat, and it always worked. Apparently, there is some chemical reaction that takes place when black pepper is cooked in warm milk. Not all of my mum's home cures were as effective. Her remedy for cold sores, and this is true, awful, involved lighting an oily wick and rolling it over the affected lip. It usually resulted in a blackened, burnt, and slightly more sore lip. So we will steer clear of that one for now. This drink has an earthy and filling taste, and it is good for you when you're feeling out of sorts. One final thing, if you plan to take any selfies with your tongue sticking out, please take them before drinking this, as it will stain your tongue a bright sunshine yellow, and it will remain like that for quite a while. Oh gosh, you know what? I used to look after my gorgeous nephew Ravi from when he was a baby, and whenever he would come with these sort of candle drips of bogies down his poor little nose, I would say, right, my darling, I'm going to make you saffron now. And he would moan and complain, no! Why don't you want to drink it, Ravi? Why? Because it'll make my tongue go yellow. Really, this is how ridiculous these children were, and still are. But every single time I would make this for him, that cold would go within hours. So here are the ingredients. You need 1 mug of milk, 1 tablespoonful of turmeric powder, honey to taste, so a tablespoonful or so will be perfect, and you also need a few grinds of black pepper. Method: pour the milk and the turmeric into a milk pan and heat it up slowly. Don't leave it alone, as you don't want it to boil over. Add a few grinds of black pepper. If you don't have whole peppercorns, a couple of pinches of pre-ground pepper will do just as well. Just before it boils, remove from the stove, pour into a mug, add the honey to taste, and sip it whilst it's hot. You'll feel better soon. You know, as I'm reading from this cookery book, I remember my first ever radio job. So radio runs through my veins. My first job after university was, I got very lucky. I got to be a radio producer for a brand new internet radio station. And oh gosh, I had so much fun. The people I were working with were just eccentric and wonderful and cuckoo. And after a couple of months, they asked if I wanted to be involved in doing a live show. And so I wondered what on earth I could do. And so I had a slot where I would I would pretend to be cooking something, or I'd pretend to have cooked something, or I'd be planning lunch. And I had a very large cookery book, a very, very large old 1960s cookery book that had incredible recipes in it. I remember one of them was for how to cook snails from scratch, and it actually entailed going into the garden and picking up your snails and then putting them onto oatmeal for several days so that they could clean themselves out before, I don't know what you did with them. And anyway, just reading through that recipe from my own cookery book reminded me of those days way back when. Oh, hello, hello, hello. You're listening to Kevin Durjun here on UK Health Radio. Thank you so much for listening and for tuning in and for listening to my show Acupuncture Point. So, if like me, you're always thinking, you know what, I need to look after my waistline, this item is going to be really, really great for you. It was my birthday the other day, and really, really kindly, very sweetly, my dad bought me a gorgeous suit, a 3-piece suit, and I've gave him my waistline details, and they duly bought it in my waistline. Anyway, I tried on the trousers, and they were tight. In fact, the trousers looked like I was wearing a pair of tights. Now, I refuse to go up a few notches. I will make myself go down a few notches by hook or by crook. So using things like the 5-2 diet, also having a couple of fasting days, skipping the odd meal here and there, and also avoiding those tiny little temptations. You know, whenever you feel like a biscuit, well, just don't. Don't have that biscuit, because within that biscuit are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of calories, and it basically means that you can't fit into the trousers that you want to. Anyway, apparently there is a ratio for calculating what your perfect waist size will be. A watchdog says that people, that's you and I, people like us, we should be encouraged to measure our waist to height ratio. And the reason for this is that if we've got too much, essentially fat around our middle, around our tummies, that is linked to a greater risk of type 2 diabetes. So here is that formula. And this comes from the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence. Nice. So basically what this organisation found is that there is a clear benefit of using the waist to height ratio. You can easily measure it yourselves, you can easily interpret those results, and it means that if you are at a greater risk of illness because of excess weight, then you can seek advice. So the healthy waist to height ratio is classed as 0.4 to 0.49. So a ratio of 0.5 to 0.59 puts people at increased risk of health issues. Now, if like me, numbers are not your strong point, I'm going to put it into a much simpler explanation. So if you're a woman and you're 5'4" tall, with a waist size of 29 inches, you've got a healthy ratio. If, however, you've got a 32-inch waist, this would mean that you are in the slightly less healthy range. So if you're a man who is 5'10" tall, you would be at an increased health risk if you had a 36-inch waist. So there is an online calculator that you can use if you want to work out your waist to height ratio. I think that this is a very, very nice way of looking at things. I think that the simpler we can make things, the better. And also, it's a sense of putting us back in control and in charge. If we can see very clearly, this is where I should be, and if you're a couple of inches above it, well, then you are empowered to take a couple of steps to reduce slowly, healthily, so that you can take your health into your own hands. And if you're like me, you can slip into the trousers of the size that you prefer.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
Hello. You're listening to Kevin Durjun here on UK Health Radio. Thank you for supporting Acupuncture Point. A little bit about me. I am an acupuncturist, and I can't believe it. I was doing the maths recently. I started my acupuncture journey 20 years ago. I've been involved in acupuncture for 20 years, and it's just gone like that. It's been an exciting, wonderful career to be part of, and over the years I've helped so many people, and it's been a real privilege actually to help people, ranging from emotional difficulties to physical pain. I remember one of my first ever patients, I'm just bringing us down memory lane a little bit. One of my first ever patients, she was a really lovely lady, and she had some quite serious emotional difficulties. And in 5-element acupuncture, which is the style of treatment that I practice, you don't need to use a lot of needles. You don't need to essentially, we put our faith in the fact that we understand the power of the actual acupuncture point, and we also understand about the connection that we have with our patients, and often just a very small shift is enough for a wide myriad of benefits to be felt. A very, very simple analogy for this is you're in a completely pitch black auditorium. All you need to do is to switch on one light bulb and the whole space is illuminated. So essentially that's what I'm trying to express to you. Very, very tiny interventions can make really massive changes to the way that people feel. And coming back to this patient, I remember I it was one of the first people that I had treated outside of the student clinic. It was when I'd set up all by myself, and it was all very, very exciting, feeling like a grown-up practitioner, and also inside completely and utterly petrified, because here I had to do it by myself. And this lady came along and we had our conversation and we delved into various, her past, etc. And I decided that I would do one point. I would be that practitioner who had enough faith in the acupuncture points and enough understanding and grasp of the power of this medicine that I did one acupoint. It's known in the trade as bladder 67. It's located on the outside edge of your baby toe, just at the corner of the nail, the outside corner edge. And I applied a little bit of heat to it, and then I needled the point. And that was all of the treatment. And I remember this patient coming back to me saying, and she'd had some severe emotional difficulties, that something profound had changed for her and she felt so much better. And it's really tiny examples like this that make me so passionate that acupuncture, that more people try it. That's why I do this show. Because I'm a bit of a show-off and I like to express that part of myself, but also because I really, really think it's so important that people understand that there is something that can help them, a non-drug-based intervention that can help them, a very gentle nudging that can help people to feel so much better and to transform their health, but also to transform their entire way of being. And so, yes, coming to this very, very, very large study that was just published in the British Medical Journal, essentially, they've gone through the wide evidence base. They've gone through the fact that acupuncture helps. It works for so many conditions. There is evidence that demonstrates that acupuncture, when it's performed properly, is really highly effective. They come to this conclusion that it is vital that we use the large body of evidence that currently exists, and there are thousands of acupuncture studies coming out every single year. It's vital that we use this to inform clinical and policy decision making. So that basically means that the very smart people up there who are making the decisions about what therapies we can use to help people, be it, I think that aspirin is a really good medical intervention for pain, that they consider the evidence base for acupuncture, and that they essentially create a climate of evidence-informed decision-making on acupuncture to build and to facilitate the generation and implementation of this evidence. So basically meaning that we put all of the evidence into practice. Yes, just a few of the key messages from this brilliant report are that there are a large number of high quality reviews of acupuncture, and these are rigorous stuff. Another key message from this paper is that clinical practice and health policy underuse acupuncture therapies, and this is even for conditions where there are high quality reviews showing high or moderate certainty of evidence. And as I'm talking about this, I must say that there are plenty of drugs that show much lower amounts of evidence for how much they can help, and they've already been adopted and put into practice. The final two key messages from this brilliant report is that acupuncture funding and acupuncture research, they need to focus on conditions for which acupuncture therapies have substantial beneficial effects, but currently there's low certainty of how great that evidence is. And the final point is that people need to come together. Come on, we need to all work together. If you're a researcher, even if you're a patient, it's really, really important that we all come together and say, you know what? I want to have acupuncture. I want to give it a try. Let's talk to our clinicians and say, I want to have acupuncture from a really high quality practitioner, like a member of the Association of Acupuncture Clinicians. But from me, Kevin Durjun, it is time to bid you a very, very fond farewell. Until next time, lots of love. Goodbye.